Have you ever reached a certain age and wondered, did I spend my life chasing the right things? Maybe you worked hard for years. Maybe you raised children, paid bills, buried people you loved, forgave things no one ever apologized for, and kept going even when your heart was tired. And now, after 60, after 70, maybe even after 80, you look around and realize something strange. Life did not get simpler just because you got older. It got quieter. And in that quiet, the questions become louder. Was it worth all the worrying? Did I love enough? Did I wait too long to enjoy my own life? Today, I want to share the story and wisdom of an 80-year-old self-made millionaire. Not the kind of millionaire who brags about cars, houses, or money, but the kind who built her life from nothing, lost more than people knew, and learned what truly matters when the noise finally fades. And by the end of this video, you may look at your own life a little differently. Her name was Margaret. At 80 years old, she still lived in the same quiet town in Ohio where she had raised her children. She had silver hair, soft hands, and eyes that looked like they had seen every season of life. People called her wealthy. But Margaret never liked that word. She used to say, "Money made life easier. It did not make life meaningful." That one sentence stayed with everyone who heard it, because Margaret had not been born into comfort. She grew up in a small house with a leaking roof. Her father worked long hours at a factory. Her mother took in sewing to help pay for groceries. There were nights when dinner was just soup, bread, and silence. But Margaret learned early that life does not hand you peace. You have to build it. She started working at 16. First at a diner, then at a clothing store, then later she opened a small cleaning business with one bucket, one mop, and a borrowed car. People underestimated her. They saw a quiet woman and assumed she would stay small. But Margaret had something stronger than luck. She had patience. And this is the part nobody talks about. Most people do not become strong because life is easy. They become strong because life keeps asking them to stand up again. Margaret worked for decades. She saved slowly. She invested carefully. She made mistakes. She trusted the wrong people sometimes. She lost money more than once. She cried in her kitchen when no one was watching. But she kept going. By the time she was in her 60s, her little cleaning business had grown. She owned property. She had money in the bank. She had built something real. But one afternoon, sitting on her porch with a cup of coffee, she said something surprising. She said, "I wish I had learned sooner that success is not the same as peace." Maybe you have felt this too. Maybe you spent your life doing what had to be done. Working, cooking, fixing, saving, helping, showing up. And one day, you woke up and realized you had become dependable to everyone else, but distant from yourself. Margaret said the first lesson life taught her was this: do not spend your whole life proving your worth to people who are not even paying attention. She said, "When I was young, I wanted everyone to respect me. I wanted people to see that I was not weak. I wanted to show them I could make something of myself. But later I learned, some people will never clap for you because your growth reminds them of their own fear." Before you ignore this, think about your own life for a moment. How many years did you spend trying to be accepted? By family, by neighbors, by people at work, by people who judged you without knowing what you survived. Margaret said peace begins when you stop begging the world to understand your heart. You do your best. You live honestly. You treat people right. And then you let go of the need to be approved by everyone. Because after 60, one of the greatest freedoms is this: you no longer have to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Her second lesson was simple. Take care of your relationships before life forces you to count who is left. Margaret had 3 children. 2 lived far away. One called often. The others called when they could, which usually meant not often enough. She never said it with bitterness. But sometimes, when the phone did not ring all week, she would look out the window and say, "A full house becomes quiet one chair at a time." Many seniors understand that sentence. Children grow up. Friends move away. Spouses pass on. Neighbors change. The grocery store clerk may be the only person who asks how your day is going. And that loneliness can make even a comfortable home feel empty. But Margaret said something important. She said, "Do not wait for people to become perfect before you love them. And do not wait for loneliness to become heavy before you reach out. Call the old friend. Send the birthday card. Forgive where you can. Protect your peace where you must." Not every relationship can be repaired. Some people are not safe for your heart. But many relationships fade not because of hate, but because nobody made the first small move. A 5-minute call can change a day. A kind message can soften years. A cup of coffee with someone can remind you that you are still part of this world. Because sometimes, the smallest change after 60 can bring back peace. Her third lesson was about money. And it was not what people expected. Margaret said, "Save money, yes. Be careful, yes. But do not become so afraid of running out that you forget to live with what you have." She had seen people with little money who were generous. And she had seen people with millions who were terrified every day. She said fear can live in any bank account. Now, Margaret never told people to be careless. She believed in planning. She believed in asking trusted professionals before making big decisions. She believed in living within your means. But she also believed that some seniors deny themselves every small joy, even when they do not need to. They never buy the good peaches at the market. They never take the short trip. They never replace the worn-out chair. They never spend a little on something that would make daily life easier. Not because they cannot, but because fear has trained them to feel guilty for receiving comfort. And here is what many seniors discover too late. A life spent only preparing for trouble can quietly become a life never enjoyed. Margaret used to say, "Be wise with money, but do not worship safety so much that you forget joy." Her fourth lesson was one she learned after losing her husband. His name was Frank. They had been married for 51 years. He was not a perfect man. She was not a perfect woman. They argued about bills, directions, burnt toast, and whether the thermostat was too high. But every evening, Frank would ask, "You want tea?" And after he passed, Margaret said the house felt different. Not because the furniture changed, but because nobody asked that little question anymore. That is when she learned this lesson. Appreciate ordinary moments while they are still ordinary. The sound of someone moving around in the kitchen. The smell of coffee in the morning. A hand resting beside yours. A grandchild running through the hallway. A friend waving from the driveway. At the time, these things feel small. But later, they become the memories you would give anything to visit again. Maybe this is why older people often talk about the past. Not because they are stuck there, but because they finally understand how precious the simple days were. Margaret said, "The happiest memories of my life were not expensive. Most of them happened at the kitchen table." That is worth remembering. Her fifth lesson was about aging. She said, "Do not let age make you disappear from your own life." This is something many older adults quietly understand. After a certain age, people start talking around you. They assume you are tired. They assume you are confused. They assume you do not care about new things. They assume your best days are behind you. But Margaret refused to believe that. At 73, she learned how to use video calls so she could see her grandkids. At 76, she joined a local garden club. At 79, she started writing letters to younger women in her community who were trying to build small businesses. She said, "I may move slower now, but my heart is still awake." What a beautiful way to say it. Your life does not stop being valuable because your body has changed. Your wisdom does not expire. Your story still matters. Your presence still matters. Your voice can still help someone. Maybe you cannot do everything you once did, but you can still do something meaningful. You can encourage. You can teach. You can listen. You can pray. You can forgive. You can begin again in a smaller, quieter, but still beautiful way. And Margaret's final lesson may be the most important. She said, "At the end, you will not measure your life by what you owned. You will measure it by who felt loved because you were here." Think about that. Not the size of the house. Not the brand of the car. Not the number in the account. But who felt safe with you. Who learned from you. Who smiled because of you. Who became stronger because you did not give up. That is the real inheritance. Money can be spent. Furniture can be sold. Houses can change owners. But love leaves fingerprints that time cannot erase. So if you are watching this today and you feel like your life has become too quiet, please remember this. You are not finished. Your story is not over. There is still time to make a phone call. Still time to say, "I love you." Still time to forgive yourself. Still time to enjoy a morning walk, a warm meal, a good song, or a peaceful afternoon. Still time to become softer without becoming weak. Still time to become wiser without becoming bitter. Margaret lived to 84. And near the end of her life, someone asked her, "What are you most proud of?" People expected her to mention the business, the money, the properties, the success. But she smiled and said, "I am proud that life tried to harden me, and I still chose to be kind." Maybe that is the advice we all need. Not just after 80, but right now. Work hard, but do not forget to live. Save wisely, but do not fear every tomorrow. Love people, but do not lose yourself trying to be accepted. Remember the past, but do not let it steal the beauty still left in today. And above all, do not measure your life too harshly. You survived things nobody saw. You carried burdens nobody thanked you for. You made it through years that would have broken a weaker heart. That means something. That matters. If this message touched your heart, subscribe to Senior Life Chronicles. And in the comments, tell us one lesson life taught you after 60. Your story may help someone else feel less alone. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share this video with them. Because sometimes, one honest story can remind a tired heart that life still has meaning.